Blood on the Sun, starring James Cagney and released in June 1945, when the US was still at war with Japan, is an engaging, fairly suspenseful political thriller with some solid action scenes. Cagney plays Nick Condon, a journalist for the Tokyo Chronicle who uncovers a Japanese imperial plot by Premier Tanaka, John Emery, to conquer the world. Surprisingly for the time, and even for quite a while after, with new historical conflicts and bogeymen on the world stage, Blood on the Sun is not a shallow propaganda piece, despite the Japanese being the villains. Yes, all of the Asian roles, save for minor ones, are played by white actors in yellowface, which is a problem, but opportunities for Asian Americans were obviously even worse in the 40s than now, especially through the unjust internment of so many innocent Asian Americans during the war, so this white casting, along with Nick's somewhat forceful courtship of Iris, Sylvia Sidney, is excusable as an effect of the times. The makeup is also a lot better, and the portrayals a lot more convincing than Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's unfair to criticize old media with the perspectives of today without acknowledging the environment in which it was made. There's relatively little stereotyping going on in this movie. Only one or two actors do the old reversed L's and R's trope. For that matter, while decades of war propaganda portrayed quote-unquote Japs as buck-toothed, slope-headed apes, this movie portrays the Japanese as intelligent, cunning, richly cultured, and deeply concerned with honor, even if their honor is misplaced. There is even a very dignified and faintly chilling scene of, spoiler alert, Premier Tanaka committing seppuku, demonstrating that he is a principled man despite his villainy. Point is, Blood on the Sun doesn't mock the Japanese to make villains out of them. The movie isn't anti-Japan either, but rather anti-imperialist. A sympathetic Japanese politician declares that,
"I would rather see Japan defeated than triumphant under the heels of our militarists."
Now that is true honor, and it's gratifying that screenwriters Garrett Ford and Lester Cole wrote in such a mature sentiment and character. Blood on the Sun is, for the most part, weirdly respectful for a movie from 1945 about the Japanese. Anyway, after all this analysis, let's get back to the movie itself. Cagney is sardonic and charismatic as Nick, and has enjoyable give-and-take chemistry with Sidney as Iris, despite their connection being too quick. The film also seems to recognize how boorish and sex-motivated Nick can be. The Tanaka Report, which details Tanaka and the Emperor's plans for world domination, is the MacGuffin that draws the plot along, and the murder of Nick's old friend and threats against his colleagues keep the suspense burning. Intriguingly, the villains use libel and veiled threats to try and keep Nick quiet, and their surveillance over him is really obvious, but Nick can do little about it openly without risking a bullet or sparking an incident. This gives the movie an absorbing sense of hero and villain second-guessing and outwitting each other. Before I move on to the final point, I want to share an observation I've made. Have you noticed how a lot of actors in the 40s, 50s, and even early 60s spoke in a high-pitched, slightly nasally voice? This style was surely carried over from theatre and radio, but I get the feeling that if you lowered the pitch of Cagney's voice, it would sound a bit like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises.
"Given up strangling, eh, Oshima? Oh, that's right, you shot Ollie Miller."
I can't do a Bane impression. Blood on the Sun was a very early American martial arts movie. One of Cagney's passions was judo, and the movie's fight scenes are well choreographed and more cohesive and impactful than many modern American fight scenes. The final fight with Captain Oshima, John Halloran, is particularly good, with painful-looking judo throws and an awesome rapid-fire smackdown at the end. It's certainly not perfect, but it's pretty cool, and you can see traces of the next 60 to 70 years of martial arts cinema in that fight. The circumstances in which Nick's colleague Ollie Miller, Wallace Ford, found the Tanaka Report are unclear, and the romance subplot with Iris feels superfluous and could have been removed. It might have been more resonant for Iris to have been half Japanese instead of half Chinese, but then again that might have alienated viewers back then. Otherwise, Blood on the Sun is quite a tense, enjoyable early thriller, and earns 3.5 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching. Cheers.